It was supposed to be a jokian, arrogant dare I threw out just to humiliate him. But the moment his hand brushed mine in front of everyone, my world tilted. I was the one who couldn't breathe, not him. College had always been a battlefield for me, a stage where I ruled, untouchable, undefeated. On the basketball court, in debates, in grades, I made it clear I was the best. And then came him, Daniel Harper, blonde, quiet, infuriatingly steady, with a smile that didn't bend to pressure. He wasn't loud or flashy like me, but somehow people listened when he spoke. Somehow he got under my skin without even trying. So when the rumors started, the whispers that maybe I wasn't as perfect as I pretended, I needed something reckless, something impossible, to prove I couldn't be shaken. That was when I opened my stupid mouth in front of half the student body. I could even date Harper, I'd said with a smirk, and still come out on top. The crowd had erupted, gasps and laughter filling the cafeteria. Daniel had looked up from his tray with those damn steady eyes, like he was already calculating how far I'd go with this charade. And then, to my horror, his lips curved into the smallest, most dangerous smile. "Fine," he said, "just that." And my fate was sealed. The first week was chaos. People followed us across campus like we were a reality show. Hands were expected to touch, shoulders to brush, smiles to linger. Every time he leaned close to whisper something sarcastic in my ear, I had to fight the shiver crawling down my spine. "This was your idea," he'd remind me, low enough so only I could hear. Yeah, my idea. My brilliant plan to prove I was unbeatable. To prove that nothing could touch Menet, even him. But here's the thing, Daniel wasn't playing fair. He didn't push or pull. He didn't make a scene. He just existed with that frustrating calm that made everyone feel safe around him. The more he looked at me with something like patience, the more I hated how much I wanted to crack, to fall, to just let go. And I couldn't. I wouldn't. Because if I fell, I'd lose. One Friday night, we were at a party, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, music pounding against the walls. People egged us on kiss, 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 and I was ready to roll my eyes, make some cocky remark, and pull away. But Daniel didn't let me. He tugged me closer, one hand sliding against my jaw, steady and sure. His lips brushed mine, not desperate, not hesitant, but with a certainty that silenced the entire room. My chest exploded with heat and terror all at once. Because for the first time, I wasn't in control. The worst part? I didn't want to be. That night, I lay awake, replaying it again and again, hating myself for how my stomach twisted every time. I told myself it was just an act, a performance. But deep down, a voice I couldn't silence whispered, "You liked it." And that scared me more than losing ever could. The kiss haunted me. Everywhere I went, every word I said, every smirk I tried to wear, it all felt flimsy, like paper trying to shield me from fire. I told myself it didn't matter, that Daniel was just playing along, that the smirk on his lips afterward was smugness, not something deeper. But then I'd catch him looking at me, really looking, with eyes that saw far too much, and I'd lose my breath, just for a second, before plastering on my trademark grin. The thing about pretending to be in love, you start to learn what love actually feels like. Our relationship became the campus headline. Professors teased, friends speculated, and strangers stared at us like we were their favorite soap opera. At first, I thought I'd thrive in the attention. I lived for the spotlight, but the spotlight was dangerous now, because every time Daniel brushed his fingers against mine in public, the flutter in my chest wasn't staged. One afternoon, sitting on the grass near the library, he leaned close enough that I could smell the faint citrus of his shampoo. My friends were nearby, watching with eagle eyes, so I tilted my head toward him and said through clenched teeth, "You're way too good at this." He chuckled softly, eyes fixed on his book. "Good at what?" This fake couple thing. It's creepy how natural you are." He didn't even look up. "Maybe I'm not pretending." My heart stumbled so violently I thought he could hear it. I shoved his shoulder, laughing louder than necessary, and stood up before he could see my face flush. "You're hilarious, Harper." Keep dreaming. But his words stuck to me like glue, replaying every time I closed my eyes. By the second month, the game turned into something I couldn't define. We had routines. Morning coffee together at the cafe, where he ordered black and I drowned mine in sugar. Study sessions in the library, where his notes were neat and mine looked like chaos. Late night walks back to the dorms, when the campus was quiet and the air carried secrets. Sometimes he'd tease me, subtle and sharp, and I'd fire back. Other times, silence stretched between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was steady, solid. A silence that felt like a hand resting over my heart. And that terrified me more than any fight we'd ever had. It all came to a head during finals week. Stress had everyone on edge, but Daniel seemed infuriatingly calm. Meanwhile, I was pacing my dorm room at 2 a.m., half my notes unread, when there was a knock at the door. He stood there holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You look like you're about to combust," he said flatly, pushing past me into the room. "Gee, thanks," I muttered, collapsing onto my bed. "Some of us actually care about winning." He set the mugs down and crossed his arms. "Winning? Is that all this is to you?" The bitterness in his tone caught me off guard. I sat up. "What's that supposed to mean?" He met my eyes, and for once his calm cracked. "You treat everything like a competition, like people are trophies to collect. Is that what I am to you? Just another way to prove you're untouchable?" The words sliced through me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because deep down I knew he was right. That's how it started. That's what I wanted. But now it was something else entirely. Something I couldn't even name. I swallowed hard. "I don't know." Daniel stared for a long moment, then shook his head. "Figure it out, Alex, before you destroy both of us." And just like that, he left. The days after were unbearable. We still had to perform, for everyone else, hands brushing in hallways, fake smiles in the cafeteria, but behind closed doors, there was a wall between us. He didn't crack jokes anymore. He didn't lean close. And every time his hand lingered in mine for the sake of the crowd, I wanted to beg him not to let go. I'd built my whole life on winning, on never backing down, never showing weakness. But what if the shim was the one thing I couldn't treat like a game? The breaking point came at the championship basketball game. The gym was packed, lights glaring, the crowd roaring as I stepped onto the court. This was my stage, my kingdom. But even as I dribbled, passed, scored, my eyes kept flicking to the bleachers where Daniel sat, quiet as ever, watching me with unreadable eyes. Every shot I made felt hollow. Every cheer felt empty. Because what did it matter if I won the game if I was losing him? By the fourth quarter, sweat dripping down my face, lungs burning, I realized something that shook me harder than any opponent ever had. I didn't want to win anymore. Not like this. I wanted him. That night, after the victory celebrations, after the cheers and the backslaps and the endless noise, I found myself outside his dorm. My hands shook as I knocked. When he opened the door, his expression was unreadable. "We won," I said, breathless, still in my jersey. "But it doesn't feel like winning. Not without you." His eyes softened just a fraction, but he didn't speak. I stepped closer. "You were right. At first, this was about proving I couldn't lose. But somewhere along the way, I lost anyway because I can't stop thinking about you. Because when you smile, it wrecks me. Because every time you look at me, I feel like I'm not pretending anymore." Silence. Heavy, suffocating. Then Daniel whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Say it, Alex. Say what you really want." I swallowed hard, my chest tight, and finally let the truth break free. "I want you. No games. No pretending. Just you." For a moment, I thought he'd push me away again. But then his hand reached for mine, warm and steady, and he pulled me into his arms. And for the first time in my life, surrender felt like victory. The first real kiss happened when no one was watching. No cheers, no chanting crowd, no game to play. Just me and him, in the quiet hallway outside his dorm, the weight of my confession still hanging between us. Daniel didn't hesitate. His lips found mine like it was inevitable, like the universe had been pulling us toward this exact moment since the beginning. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. It was gentle, steady, devastating in its honesty. And God, I was ruined. But if I thought the world would let us keep this fragile thing safe, I was wrong. By Monday, whispers spread across campus. Someone had seen us in the hallway. Someone had noticed the difference in the way we looked at each other. It was subtle at first, teasing comments, knowing smiles. But then the rumors sharpened, turning into knives. They're not faking anymore. Did you hear? Alex actually fell for him. Pathetic. He lost his own game. The words clawed at me because for once, they weren't wrong. I had fallen, and part of me hated how exposed that made me. But the other part, the louder part, didn't care. Not when Daniel's hand brushed mine under the cafeteria table, grounding me in a way the spotlight never could. Still, the backlash was brutal. On the court, teammates made snide comments under their breath. At study sessions, people snickered behind their laptops. Even some of my so-called friends turned cold, whispering that I'd let myself be tamed by him. I'd always thrived on attention, but now every stare felt like a weapon. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know how to fight back. One night, sitting on the bleachers after practice, I buried my face in my hands. Sweat dripped down my arms, my muscles ached, but it was nothing compared to the heaviness in my chest. "You okay?" Daniel's voice was soft as he climbed up beside me. I let out a bitter laugh. "Do I look okay?" He didn't flinch. He just sat close enough for our shoulders to touch, his warmth steady against me. "You don't have to prove anything anymore." The words cut deep, because proving myself was all I'd ever known. If I wasn't the best, who was I? What if they're right? I whispered. What if I really did lose? Daniel turned his head, his gaze sharp but kind. Then maybe losing isn't such a bad thing. But the universe wasn't done testing me. A week later, at a student senate meeting, someone stood up during open forum and said it loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Alex, why don't you admit it? You lost to Harper. You're not unbeatable. You're just another guy who fell for him." The room erupted in laughter. Dozens of eyes turned on me, waiting for my infamous comeback. The old meth undefeated muled V fired off something witty, cutting, leaving them all stunned. But I just froze. Then I looked at Daniel, sitting across the room, calm as always, his gaze locked on mine. No judgment, no pity, just a quiet kind of strength, like he believed I could rise above this. And for the first time, I didn't want to win by tearing someone else down. I wanted to win by being honest. So I stood, heart pounding, palms sweating, and said, "You're right. I did fall for him. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me." Silence. Not laughter. Not whispers, just silence. Heavy and stunned. And then Daniel smiled. Not the dangerous, sarcastic smile I'd first hated, but something warm, open, proud. A smile that said maybe, just maybe, I'd finally chosen the right fight. After that, the lines were drawn. Some people supported us, clapping me on the back, saying it was brave. Others turned colder, muttering insults, rolling their eyes, making sure we knew we weren't welcome in certain circles. The tension followed us everywhere, in the court, in classrooms, even in the dining hall. But through it all, Daniel stayed steady. He never flinched, never apologized, never once acted like we were something to be ashamed of. And I started to change. Winning didn't mean crushing everyone else anymore. It meant holding my head high when people tried to drag me down. It meant choosing Daniel again and again, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. One evening, we sat by the lake at the edge of campus. The sky painted in streaks of orange and pink. The world felt quieter there, like it was giving us a break. "You ever regret it?" I asked, skipping a stone across the water. "Regret what?" Daniel leaned back on his elbows, the fading sunlight catching in his blonde hair. "This. All the crap we've had to deal with because of it." He was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "No, because even on the worst days, I'd rather fight for this than pretend it doesn't mean anything." I stared at him, my chest tightening. How do you do that? Stay so calm. So sure. He smiled faintly. Because I know what I want. He turned his head, meeting my eyes. Do you? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because the truth scared me. The breaking point came sooner than I expected. At an away game, in a rival school's gym, the crowd was merciless. They didn't just cheer against us, they taunted me directly. Harper's boyfriend. Not so unbeatable now. The chants echoed off the walls, loud and cruel. My teammates avoided my eyes. My coach looked like he wanted to crawl into the floor. And in the middle of it all, I cracked. I lost focus. Missed shots I never would have missed. Let the other team blow past me like I was nothing. Every jeer, every laugh, dug deeper, until the voice in my head screamed. They're right. You're not the best anymore. You're just weak. By the time the buzzer sounded, we'd lost. Badly. And I knew everyone was blaming me. In the locker room afterward, I sat on the bench, drenched in sweat, fists clenched so hard my nails cut into my palms. Daniel slipped in quietly, ignoring the glares from the others, and sat beside me. I ruined everything, I muttered. He shook his head. You had a bad game. No, my voice cracked. It's more than that. They're right, I am not unbeatable anymore. I've lost my edge. You've lost the mask. Daniel interrupted, his tone firm. And maybe that's exactly what you needed. I looked at him, stunned. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You don't need to be perfect, Alex. Not with me. Not with anyone. You just need to be real. And for the first time in my life, I let the tears fall. That night, in a cheap motel room off the highway, we lay side by side on the same bed, the hum of the air conditioner filling the silence. I thought he'd pull away, give me space. But instead, he reached over, lacing his fingers with mine. No words, no performance, just us. And in that small, fragile moment, I realized something that terrified me and freed me all at once. For the first time, I didn't care about winning. Because with him beside me, I'd already won. The months that followed tested us in ways I never expected. It wasn't just campus gossip, Anna Maria, it was the real world crashing in. My parents found out first. I hadn't told them, but word travels fast when you're the star athlete of a college that loves its scandals. One evening, my phone lit up with my mother's name. Her voice was tight, controlled, the way it always got when she was furious but trying to sound calm. Alex, is it true? About you and him? I swallowed hard, pacing my dorm room. Yes, it's true. Silence stretched on the line, so heavy it felt like it could crush me. Then came the sigh, sharp as broken glass. We didn't raise you for this kind of life. Think about your future. Think about your reputation. The old me would have panicked, would have bent over backward to convince her I was still perfect, still the golden boy she wanted. But I wasn't the old me anymore. My future is mine, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. And he's part of it, whether you like it or not. She hung up without another word. Daniel's family, on the other hand, surprised me. When he invited me home over spring break, I expected suspicion, maybe even hostility. Instead, I walked into a warm kitchen where his mom hugged me before I could even introduce myself properly. His dad shook my hand with a quiet strength that reminded me of Daniel. His little sister teased him endlessly, calling me the boyfriend, with a grin that made him roll his eyes. Watching him with them felt like peeking into a world I'd never known, one where love didn't have to be earned by being flawless, one where you could be enough just by existing. That night, lying on his bed in the room he grew up in, I whispered, I don't think I've ever been jealous of someone's family before. Daniel squeezed my hand, his expression soft in the lamplight. You have me now. That's enough. And somehow it was, but not everyone was so accepting. The whispers turned into outright hostility. Some of my teammates froze me out completely, calling me a distraction. A few strangers on campus threw slurs my way, ugly words that dug under my skin. Once I found my locker vandalized with red spray paint. Loser. I almost snapped. Almost went back to the arrogant, sharp-tongued version of myself who would have burned the whole place down rather than feel small. But Daniel stopped me. "They want you to lash out," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Don't give them what they want." "Then what am I supposed to do? Just take it?" I shot back. "No," he stepped closer, eyes steady. "You fight back by living. By showing them they can't break you. By holding your head high and loving who you love, no matter what they say." And for the first time, I believed him. The turning point came at the final championship game of the season. The gym was packed, the crowd buzzing with tension. I could feel the weight of every whisper, every doubt, pressing on me as I stepped onto the court. For once, winning didn't feel like everything. It felt like nothing compared to the man sitting in the bleachers, watching me with quiet faith. The game was brutal. My body screamed with every sprint, every jump, every shot. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't playing to prove I was unbeatable. I was playing because I loved it, because I finally understood what it meant to fight for something that mattered. We won by 2 points. The crowd erupted. My teammates lifted me onto their shoulders, but my eyes searched only for Daniel. He stood at the edge of the court, smiling that small, proud smile that had unraveled me from the start. I broke free from the celebration and ran straight to him. Without hesitation, without fear, I grabbed his face in my hands and kissed him in front of the entire school. The gym went silent, then exploded in chaos, cheers, gasps, even some boos. But none of it mattered. For the first time, I didn't care what anyone thought. I was done pretending. Graduation came faster than I expected. The future loomed, different cities, different plans. Part of me feared we'd drift apart, that the world would pull us in opposite directions. But Daniel just smiled when I voiced my worries. "We've already survived worse," he said. "We'll figure it out." And he was right, because love, real love, wasn't about being unbeatable. It was about surrender, about choosing each other every single day, even when it wasn't easy. On the night before we left campus for good, we sat together on the roof of the library, the stars scattered like diamonds above us. "Do you remember?" I asked. "The first time I said I could date you and still win?" Daniel smirked, his hand resting warm against mine. "Yeah, arrogant as hell." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Turns out I was wrong. I didn't win." He tilted his head, curious. "No." I turned to him, my chest aching in the best way. "No, I lost. Completely. To you." His smile softened, and he leaned in until our foreheads touched. "Funny. That feels like winning to me." And under the endless sky, with his hand steady in mine, I finally understood. Losing myself had been the only way to truly find who I was meant to be. That was the irony of it all. I started this story trying to prove I was unbeatable. But the truth? The best thing I ever did was let myself be defeated by him, by love, by the terrifying, beautiful freedom of finally being real. And in that surrender, I had never felt stronger. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.